Hello friends. I'm apologizing in advance, but my updates might get slightly more spaced out because like all of the rest of us, I am mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically exhausted by all of the things that have been happening for the last week. It's like drinking from a fire hose. I've got a couple more videos coming out, probably not till tomorrow because each one of these just takes more out of me to make every time. But today we need to talk about H5N1 because holy shit. That's the headline this week. Holy shit. Okay, so the scale and scope of the outbreak happening in the United States right now, even with Trump trying to kill all the data reporting, is alarming in terms of the individual economic devastation, the sheer number of birds that we are killing, and the potential downstream effects on our food supply. Almost 4 million birds in Ohio, both turkeys and chickens, 2.8 million egg bird facility in Indiana, dairy cows in Nevada. It's been detected in snow geese in Philadelphia, a duck farm, one of the oldest in the United States, on Long Island, deer and house mice in Washington, meaning, as pointed out here, it is climbing up the evolutionary food chain. In Georgia, the largest poultry producer in the United States, all poultry trading has been halted because bird flu has been detected at multiple commercial operations, and they're literally mass killing these birds to try to prevent the spread. And here's where the kicker is starting to really affect our food chain, because there are estimates that they're going to lose up to 40% of the birds in Georgia. Again, the state that produces the most chicken and eggs, which is why egg prices look like this, if you can even get them. California, one of the country's largest dairy producers, has lost 233 million pounds of milk in a single month due to the rampant spread amongst the herds in California, which is pushing up milk prices in addition to egg prices. Hamburger might get cheaper temporarily because that's where they send the ones that recover but don't return to producing milk. But because we now need to replace so many dairy cows, we're prioritizing implanting new dairy cows over steer, which is going to increase the cost of steak. Do we not see the interrelated parts of our food supply chain yet? Which is why, if you've ever been considering becoming a vegetarian or vegan, now might be the time. And I know the Orange Cheeto-in-Chief did say he would absolutely bring down grocery prices on day one, but he hasn't, because he cannot change this. Especially not by removing our participation in the WHO, pausing essentially all spending at the NIH. They can't even buy reagents right now, so nothing's happening there, including development of, vaccines that we need to help us prepare for the shitstorm that is coming. And pausing all government communication, because pretending data doesn't exist doesn't make it not exist. But as a sidebar, because I just have to throw this out there for anybody who has fallen for his lies, none of the executive orders that he issued last week will do anything to decrease the prices of groceries at the grocery store. But what they will do is increase it because tariffs are paid by you, not other countries. And putting tariffs on places like Mexico and Canada, where we import a lot of food, or Colombia, where we import things like coffee, is not going to change your grocery prices. He fucking lied. Moving on. Minnesota reported an outbreak at one of their bird farms, which is interesting considering some other things that have been happening in Minnesota this week. So one of the few bits of data that was published by the government this past week was the data on influenza. So the test positivity rate nationwide is 25%, which is significantly higher than last season. And it's the leading cause of emergency room visits. But Minnesota in particular is leading the way in emergency room visits from flu cases. Over 10% of their emergency room cases are currently because of the flu, which is probably why. The Minnesota Department of Health has now issued an advisory that all clinicians who get a positive flu A test should send it for subtyping within 24 hours of admission. Now, as far as I'm aware, that means that only Minnesota and San Francisco are actually doing this mandatory subtyping for anyone who tests positive for flu A. We should be doing more of this, not less of this. Moving on to the international front, Japan is similarly fighting an outbreak among their bird farms, already culling 1.2 million birds this season. Bird flu is spreading in big cats in India, including leopards and tigers. The UK is experiencing several commercial farm outbreaks, including ones in North Yorkshire and Griffiths Family Farm, which has led to a declaration of an avian influenza prevention zone that covers the entirety of England, as well as Scotland. It's also showing up in non-commercial flocks, including non-migratory ones, all across the UK. And most alarmingly still, the UK now has its first human case of H5N1. This is a case of bird-to-human transmission, and it is the D1.2 genotype, meaning that it is more similar to the one that the teen in British Columbia had and that the patient in Louisiana died of, than the bovine-mediated B-clade that has shown up in other human cases. The human cases in British Columbia and Louisiana had D1.1. This is D1.2. So I really hope for the sake of that patient that they recover well and do not end up spending months in the hospital like the teen in British Columbia, or die like the patient in Louisiana. Because ultimately, this is the kicker. The more it spreads, the more it has chances to mutate. And it is spreading. And it is mutating. This entire subclass, of which D1.1, 1.2, and the B clade are all members, is increasing its efficiency in replicating in mammalian respiratory cells, in pigs, and in cows. That doesn't necessarily mean that it is human adapted yet, but every infection, human or animal, gives it a chance to mutate and brings us one step closer to potentially having human-to-human infection spread. And since one of the potential routes of spread may be wind-blown avian feces, it has the potential to spread anywhere that birds can go, which makes this quote all the more relevant. The risk of the public will remain low until one day, one of these cases does go human to human. If it hasn't already, as I said in other videos, we have 4 human cases where we don't know how they got it. We do know that it didn't spread very well from them, but we don't know what they got it from. But once that happens, the risk will not be very low. But since public health has basically given up the ghost, we won't have any tools to fight it. And that about sums it up. H5N1 is a dumpster fire. It's absolutely harming our food chain. It is absolutely spreading in an unmitigated disaster that is increasing the chances that it will eventually become a human-to-human transmission. Trump is trying to shut down access to all public data and our participation in international cooperation about public health data, because pretending away our problems has worked so well for us in the past. Ha! And generally, the United States is an absolute dumpster fire, so welcome. I'm sorry I can't offer more words of comfort. I'm all out of fucks. I'll keep trying to do what I'm doing for as long as I can, but just know that I'm in exactly the same boat. My mental health is not awesome right now. Wear your mask, get your flu shot, and keep paying attention as best you can. Stay safe, y'all.